Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good night, whenever you're watching this. So these are the New York State standards. These are the I can statements. What do we want to do? We want to be able to read closely to determine what the text says explicitly or implicitly and make logical inferences from it. Cite specific textual evidence when writing or speaking to support conclusions drawn from the text. Standard two, we want to determine central ideas or themes of a text and analyze their development. Summarize the key supporting details and ideas. Standard three, analyze how and why individuals, events, and ideas develop and interact over the course of a text, which of course is Percy Jackson. Not that chapter. This chapter. Chapter 10. All right. We hitch a ride with dead Confederates. Thermos, I screamed as we hurtled toward the water. As we left off, the heroes were just trying to escape Luke and a couple of bear looking creatures that were after them. They had just cut the ropes on. Is this working? Yeah, they had just cut the ropes on a getaway boat or rescue boat, I guess it would be. And they were pretty close to hitting the water. So here we go. What? Annabeth must have thought I lost my mind. She was holding onto the boat straps for dear life, her hair flying straight up like a torch. But Tyson understood. He managed to open my duffel bag and take out Hermes' magical thermos without losing his grip on it or the boat. Arrows and javelins whistled past us. I grabbed the thermos and I hoped I was doing the right thing. Hang on! I am hanging on, Annabeth yelled. Tighter! I hooked my feet under the boat's inflatable bench, and as Tyson grabbed Annabeth and me by the backs of our shirts, I gave the thermos cap a quarter turn. Instantly, a white sheet of wind jetted out of the thermos and propelled us sideways, turning our downward plummet into a 45-degree crash landing. The wind seemed to laugh as it shot from the thermos like it was glad to be free. As we hit the ocean, we bumped once, twice, skipping like a stone. Then we were whizzing along like a speedboat, salt spray at our faces and nothing but sea ahead. I heard a wail of outrage from the ship behind us, but we were already out of weapon range. The Princess Andromeda faded to the size of a white toy boat in the distance, and then it was gone. As we raced over the sea, Annabeth and I tried to send an iris message to Chiron. We figured it was important we let somebody know what Luke was doing, and we didn't know who else to trust. The wind from the thermos stirred up a nice sea spray that made a rainbow in the sunlight, perfect for an iris message, but our connection was still poor. When Annabeth threw a gold drachma into the mist and prayed for the rainbow goddess to show us Chiron, his face appeared all right, but there was some kind of weird strobe light flashing in the background and rock music blaring like he was at a dance club. We told him about sneaking away from camp, and Luke and the Princess Andromeda and the golden box for Kronos' remains, but between the noise on his end and the rushing wind and water on our end, I'm not sure how much he heard. Percy, Chiron yelled, you have to watch out for. Keeping us in suspense. What do you have to watch out for, Percy? His voice was drowned out by loud shouting behind him, a bunch of voices whooping it up like Comanche warriors. What? I yelled. Curse my relatives. Chiron ducked as a plate flew over his head and shattered somewhere out of sight. Annabeth, you shouldn't have let Percy leave camp, but if you do get the fleece, yeah, baby, somebody behind Chiron yelled. Woohoo! The music got cranked up, subwoofers so loud it made our boat vibrate. Miami, Chiron was yelling. I'll try to keep watch. Our misty screen smashed apart like someone on the other side had thrown a bottle at it, and Chiron was gone. An hour later, we spotted land, a long stretch of beach lined with high-rise hotels. The water became crowded with fishing boats and tankers. A Coast Guard cruiser passed on our starboard side, then turned like it wanted a second look. I guess it wasn't every day they see a yellow lifeboat with no engine going 100 knots an hour, manned by 3 kids. That's Virginia Beach, Annabeth said as we approached the shoreline. Oh my gods, how did the Princess Andromeda travel so far overnight? That's like 530 nautical miles, I said. She stared at me. How did you know that? I, I'm not sure. Annabeth thought for a moment. Percy, what's our position? 36 degrees, 44 minutes north, 76 degrees, 2 minutes west, I said immediately. Then I shook my head. Whoa, how did I know that? Because of your dad, Annabeth guessed. When you're at sea, you have perfect bearings. That is so cool. I wasn't sure about that. I didn't want to be a human GPS unit, but before I could say anything, Tyson tapped my shoulder. Other boat is coming. Uh-oh, who's it going to be? Who's the other boat? Pirates on the open sea? Luke and the Bear Twins? Or is it going to be the Coast Guard again? Who is it going to be? A ghost ship filled with zombies? Speaking of, I think I'm missing the Walking Dead right now. Wow, this is really laggy today, this morning. Whenever you're watching it, it's very laggy. Did I actually hit the button? I swear I did. Just changed a different color. Maybe it was laggy because I didn't push the button. I looked back. The Coast Guard vessel was definitely on our tail now. Its lights were flashing and it was gaining speed. We can't let them catch us, I said. They'll ask too many questions. Keep going into Chesapeake Bay, Annabeth said. I know a place we can hide. I didn't ask what she meant or how she knew the area so well. Excuse me. I risked loosening the thermos cap a little more, and a fresh burst of wind sent us rocketing around the northern tip of Virginia Beach into Chesapeake Bay. The Coast Guard boat fell farther and farther behind. We didn't slow down until the shores of the bay narrowed on either side, and I realized we had entered the mouth of a river. I could feel the change from salt water to fresh water. Suddenly, I was tired and frazzled, like I was coming down off a sugar high. I didn't know how. I didn't know where I was anymore or which way to steer the boat. It was a good thing Annabeth was directing me. There, she said, past that sandbar. We veered into a swampy area choked marsh grass. I beached the lifeboat at the foot of a giant cypress. Vine covered trees loomed above us. Insects cheered in the woods. The air was muggy and hot, and steam curled off the river. Basically, it wasn't Manhattan, and I didn't like it. Come on, Annabeth said. It's just down the bank. What is? I asked. Just follow. She grabbed the duffel bag. We better cover the boat. We don't want to draw attention. After burying the lifeboat with branches, Tyson and I followed Annabeth along the shore, our feet sinking in red mud. A snake slithered past my shoe and disappeared into the grass. Not a good place, Tyson said. He swatted the mosquitoes that were forming a buffet line on his arm. After another few minutes, Annabeth said, Here. All I saw was a patch of brambles. Then Annabeth moved aside a woven circle of branches like a door, and I realized I was looking into a camouflage shelter. The inside was big enough for three, even with Tyson being the third. The walls were woven from plant material like a Native American hut, but they looked pretty waterproof. Stacked in the corner was everything you could want for a campout: sleeping bags, blankets, an ice chest, and a kerosene lamp. There were demigods provisioned too: bronze javelin tips, a quiver full of arrows, an extra sword, and a box of ambrosia. The place smelled musty, like it had been vacant for a long time. A half-blood hideout. I looked at Annabeth in awe. You made this place? Talia and I, she said quietly, and Luke. That shouldn't have bothered me. I mean, I knew Talia and Luke had taken care of Annabeth when she was little. I knew the three of them had been runaways together, hiding from monsters, surviving on their own before Grover found them and tried to get them to Half Blood Hill. But whenever Annabeth talked about the time she'd spent with them, I kind of felt, I don't know, uncomfortable? No, that's not the word. The word was jealous. So, I said, you don't think Luke will look for us here? She shook her head. We made a dozen safe houses like this. I doubt Luke even remembers where they are or cares. She threw herself down on the blankets and started going through her duffel bag. Her body language made it pretty clear she didn't want to talk. Tyson, I said, would you mind scouting around outside? Like, look for a wild wilderness convenience store or something? Convenience store? Yeah, for snacks, powdered donuts or something. Just don't go too far. Powdered donuts, Tyson said earnestly. I will look for powdered donuts in the wilderness. He headed outside and started calling, Here, donuts. Once he was gone, I sat down across from Annabeth. Hey, I'm sorry about, seeing Luke. It's not your fault. She unsheathed her knife and started cleaning the blade with the rag. He let us go too easily, I said. I hoped I'd been imagining it, but Annabeth nodded. I was thinking the same thing. What we overheard him say about a gamble and they'll take the bait, I think he was talking about us. The fleece is the bait or Grover? She studied the edge of her knife. I don't know, Percy. Maybe he wants the fleece for himself. Maybe he's hoping we'll do the hard work and then he can steal it from us. I just can't believe he would poison the tree. What did he mean? I asked. That Talia would have been on his side. He's wrong. You don't sound sure. Annabeth glared at me, and I started to wish I hadn't asked her about Talia while she was holding a knife. Percy, you know who you remind me of most? Talia. You guys are so much alike, it's scary. I mean, either you would have been best friends or you would have strangled each other. Let's go with best friends. Talia got angry with her dad sometimes. So do you. Would you turn against Olympus because of that? I stared at the quiver of arrows in the corner. No. Okay then, neither would she. Luke's wrong. Annabeth stuck her knife blade into the dirt. I wanted to ask her about the prophecy Luke had mentioned and what it had to do with my 16th birthday, but I figured she wouldn't tell me. Chiron had made it pretty clear that I wasn't allowed to hear it until the gods decided otherwise. So, what did Luke mean about Cyclopses? I asked. He said, You of all people. I know what he said. He was talking about the real reason Talia died. I waited, not sure what to say. Excuse me. Annabeth drew a shaky breath. You can never trust the Cyclops, Percy. 6 years ago, on the night Grover was leading us to Half Blood Hill, she was interrupted when the door of the hut creaked open. Tyson crawled in. Powdered donuts, he said proudly, holding up a pastry box. Annabeth stared at him. Where did you get that? We're in the middle of the wilderness. There's nothing around for 50 feet, Tyson said. Monster donut shop just over the hill. This is bad, Annabeth muttered. We were crouching behind a tree, staring at the donut shop in the middle of the woods. It looked brand new, with brightly lit windows, a parking area, and a little road leading off into the forest, but there was nothing else around, and no cars parked in the parking lot. We could see one employee reading a magazine behind the cash register. That was it. On the store's marquee, in huge black letters that even I could read, it said Monster Donuts. A cartoon ogre was taking a bite out of the O in Monster. The place smelled good, like baked fresh chocolate donuts. This shouldn't be here, Annabeth whispered. It's wrong. What? I asked. It's a donut shop. Shh. Why are we whispering? Tyson went in and bought a dozen. Nothing happened to him. He's a monster. Ah, come on, Annabeth. Monster donut doesn't mean monsters. It's a chain. We've got them in New York. A chain, she agreed. And don't you think it's strange that one appeared immediately after you told Tyson to get donuts, right here in the middle of the woods? I thought about it. It did seem a little weird, but I mean, donut shops weren't real high on my list of sinister forces. It could be a nest, Annabeth explained. A nest for what? I don't know. For birds? No, for monsters. Let's see. What kind of a nest? Tyson whimpered. I doubt he understood what Annabeth was saying any better than I did, but her tone was making him nervous. He plowed through half a dozen donuts from his box and was getting powdered sugar all over his face. A nest for what? I asked. Haven't you ever wondered how franchise stores pop up so fast? She asked. One day there's nothing, and the next day, boom, there's a new burger place or coffee shop or whatever. First a single store, then two, then four, exact replicas spreading across the country. No, never thought about it. Percy, some of the chains multiply so fast because all their locations are magically linked to the life force of a monster. Some children of Hermes figured out how to do it back in the 1950s. They breed. She froze. What? I demanded. They breed what? No sudden moves, Annabeth said, like her life depended on it. Very slowly turn around. Then I heard it, a scraping noise, like something large dragging its belly through the leaves. I turned and saw a rhino-sized thing moving through the shadows of the trees. It was hissing, its front half writhing in all different directions. I couldn't understand what I was seeing at first. Then I realized the thing had multiple necks, at least 7, each topped with a hissing reptilian head. Its skin was leathery, and under each neck it wore a plastic bib that read, "I'm a monster donut kid." I took out my ballpoint pen, but Annabeth locked eyes with me. A silent warning. Not yet. I understood. A lot of monsters have terrible eyesight. It was possible the Hydra might pass us by, but if I uncapped my sword now, the bronze glow would certainly get its attention. We waited. The Hydra was only a few feet away. It seemed to be sniffing the ground and the trees like it was hunting for something. Then I noticed that 2 of the heads were ripping apart a piece of yellow canvas, one of our duffel bags. The thing had already been to our campsite. It was following our scent. My heart pounded. I'd seen a stuffed Hydra head trophy at camp before, but that did nothing to prepare me for the real thing. Each head was diamond shaped like a rattlesnake's, but the mouths were lined with jagged rows of shark like teeth. Tyson was trembling. He stepped back and accidentally snapped a twig. Immediately, all 7 heads turned toward us and hissed. "Scatter!" Annabeth yelled. She dove to the right. I rolled to the left. One of the Hydra heads spat an arc of green liquid that shot past my shoulder and splashed against an elm. The trunk smoked and began to disintegrate. The whole tree toppled straight toward Tyson, who still hadn't moved, petrified by the monster that was now right in front of him. "Tyson!" I tackled him with all my might, knocking him aside as the Hydra lunged and the tree crashed on top of 2 of its heads. The Hydra stumbled backward, yanking its head free, then wailing in outrage at the fallen tree. All 7 heads shot acid, and the elm melted into a steaming pool of muck. "Move!" I told Tyson. I ran to one side and uncapped Riptide, hoping to draw the monster's attention. It worked. The side of the celestial bronze is hateful to most monsters. As soon as my glowing blade appeared, the Hydra whipped toward it with all its heads, hissing and baring its teeth. The good news: Tyson was momentarily out of danger. The bad news: I was about to be melted into a puddle of goo. One of the heads snapped at me experimentally. Without thinking, I swung my sword. "No!" Annabeth yelled. Too late. I sliced the Hydra's head clean off. It rolled away into the grass, leaving a flailing stump, which immediately stopped bleeding and began to swell like a balloon. In a matter of seconds, the wounded neck split into 2 necks, each of which grew a full-size head. Now I was looking at an 8-headed Hydra. That's a bummer. Kind of reminds me of the Percy Jackson movie I saw, the original one. "Percy," Annabeth scolded, "you just opened another monster donut shop somewhere." I dodged a spray of acid. "I'm about to die and you're worried about that? How do we kill it?" "Fire," Annabeth said. "We have to have fire." As soon as she said that, I remembered the story. The Hydra's heads would only stop multiplying if we burned the stumps before they regrew. That's what Heracles had done anyway, but we had no fire. I backed up toward river. The Hydra followed. Annabeth moved in on my left and tried to distract one of the heads, parrying its teeth with her knife, but another head swung sideways like a club and knocked her into the muck. "No hitting my friends!" "No hitting my friends!" Tyson charged in, putting himself between the Hydra and Annabeth. As Annabeth got to her feet, Tyson started smashing at the monster's head with his fist so fast it reminded me of the whack-a-mole game at the arcade, but even Tyson couldn't fend off the Hydra forever. We kept inching backward, dodging acid splashes and deflecting snapping heads without cutting them off, but I knew we were only postponing our deaths. Eventually, we would make a mistake and the thing would kill us. Then I heard a strange sound, a clug, clug, clug that at first I thought was my heartbeat. It was so powerful it made the riverbed shake. What's that noise? Annabeth shouted, keeping her eyes on the hydrant. Steam engine, Tyson said. What? I ducked as the Hydra spat acid over my head. Then from the river behind us, a familiar female voice shouted, There! Prepare the 32-pounder! I didn't dare look away from the Hydra, but if that was who I thought it was behind us, I figured we now had enemies on two fronts. A gravely male voice said, They're too close, my lady. Damn the heroes, the girl said. Full steam ahead. Ah, my lady. Fire at will, Captain. I'm guessing dead Confederates? Annabeth understood what was happening a split second before I did. She yelled, Hit the dirt! And we dove for the ground as an earth-shattering boom echoed from the river. There was a flash of light, a column of smoke, and